Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Uplift Podcast series with me, Dr. Shivangi Sinha. Today, we are joined by a remarkable leader in finance, Ms. Ruchi Gour Mehta. From working with some of the influential companies like ITC, Asian Paints, Flipkart, Myntra, Swiggy, she has built a powerful career that spans across the process audit, controllership, business finance, investments, and acquisitions as well. But beyond finance, she's deeply passionate about spiritual growth, inner balance, and women leadership as well. Subjects that shape that how approaches decision making and which inspires other in the corporate world as well. So, Ruchi, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here with us. And thank you so much for accepting this invitation and have this podcast with me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shivangi. The pleasure is mine, and thank you so much for that generous introduction.
Thank you, thank you. And as we go by, I know that there are a lot many other things which we'll get to know, which is again the part of your introduction. Okay,
Looking forward.
so Ruchi, to begin with, you have you have a fantastic journey across the national and the multinational companies. Like I've named some in your introduction: ITC, Asian Paints, Flipkarts, Myntra. Okay, do you feel that there were any such turning point in your career that actually helped to shape your leadership skill, which you feel that even that is evident in today's world?
Sure. So when I look back at my career span of about 15 years now, there were definitely some of the key, turning points. I started my career with organizations like ITC, Asian Paints. This was like, let's say, my introduction to a finance corporate career world. And these companies taught me the discipline of processes, governance. Here, I learned about how strong systems build very strong organizations. So this phase created a very strong foundation in terms of process and governance. Then in about 2013-14, I stepped into the startup world. Now, this turning point of my career, where I worked with organizations like Swiggy, Myntra, these organizations taught me how to be, agile, how to be a fast-paced decision maker in ever-changing world. They were very entrepreneurial in nature. Here, definitely, I learned to make, quick decisions which were still responsible, to balance growth with a lot of responsibility. Then the third turning point I would say would be when I took up, CFO roles with organizations like the Elephant, Product Armor, because with this turning point in the career, you are then accountable not just for finance function, but for the overall organization's strategy, people motivation. You partner in vision creation for the organization. So yeah, these phases or turning points started with teaching me first structure, then agility, and then leadership and partnering into the organization's vision.
Oh, wow, great. So I can say that, taking those quick decisions aspects and balancing your career, I think that is one of the major aspect which you have, adapted and learned. And I think that is the biggest takeaway because if you're working in any of the company and if you're getting such kind of balance, I think it's remarkable. Now, Ruchi, I just wanted to say that, because I'm coming from a legal background and I am very interested to know something about this finance journey of yours. Okay, and I was going through everything which you have done across. At Swiggy, you were actually responsible for launching Swiggy Instamart. Okay, we use every time, but we are not very much aware how things function. Okay, and at Fancode, you took the live streaming business from pre-revenue to the revenue stage, which was again a very enhancement point. So how do you adapt these kind of financial strategies? Can you share some bits of it with us?
Sure, I think that's a great question. So the finance playbook for a business which is very early stage to a growth stage would be obviously different. I joined Swiggy as a head of finance for new lines of businesses and investments. So definitely this was the launch of the business, right from creating the entire finance team to, all these structures around data reporting, around processes, around finance tech, everything has to be set up there. So in case of Swiggy's Instamart, my focus was more on growth with control. This was actually a new product category itself that we were entering. So here, one side the speed mattered. second side, the customer adoption mattered. But at the same time, as a finance professional, we had to keep a close eye on unit economics as well
Hmm.
as scalability. So I would sum up my role as setting up the entire finance framework, which would begin with looking at finance related tech for data reconciliation, all the needed MISS matrix, closely monitoring unit economics, supporting the business teams in a successful pilot and launch of the business, which was compliance wise fine, which looked at the taxation aspects of new experiments that they were doing, which had all the legality in place. So basically, setting up the whole finance framework, which allowed experimentation, without losing sight for long-term sustainability. So that is how, Instamart, role of me as a finance leader there happened. In terms of fan code, because I partnered with the business from a pre-revenue to a post-revenue stage. That would actually mean to have, very clear discipline from day one, which meant setting up right matrix, driving right financial models, making sure that every rupee which is spent was attributable either to, a customer or to revenue growth. So, the way I adopt my financial strategies obviously depends on the stage and scale at which the business is. To summarize, if it's a early stage business, the focus would be on survival, validation, cost discipline. If it's a growth stage business, the focus would be on scaling, operational efficiency, scalable margins. If it's a mature business, then it's about governance, optimization, long-term value creation.
So, you know what happens? We just go and use various kind of business strategies, and we use the different kind of services which has been provided to us. But we never go into the background and see that how it has been built, how it has been done. The way you define that, there are different stages of business, and every stage requires a different kind of strategy, a different kind of governance, and a different kind of innovation. I think that is one of the most remarkable thing, and that is the biggest takeaway for a person who's actually dealing in finances and the people who are actually working and looking up to for scaling up their business. So I think that would be a biggest takeaway. Moving ahead with the same strategy which you just mentioned about, you have handled everything, like from the controllership of 5,000 crore entities at Cloudtail to business valuation, from funding to acquisitions. Okay, now see, I'll be very honest. This is something which I've been, because I've been the part of academics. This is something which I've been always teaching the student. This is acquisition, this is governance. But I wanted to hear from you that what is the key for balancing these governance discipline and the business innovation which takes place in the more practical aspect.
Okay, so I think balancing is the heart of modern finance,
Point.
leadership. On one hand, you cannot, compromise with the governance, which begins with, transparency, financial integrity, because this is where in the long term, the trust gets created with regulators, with investors, with employees. And in my experience of Cloudtail handling the controllership, that did kind of reinforce that how critical building this, foundation is. On the other hand, the businesses today cannot, afford to go slow. So innovation
Yes.
is equally required, and
Equally
innovation
important.
requires agility, quick decision making. At times, they have to experiment with models which does not have a precedence at all. So that's where, as a finance professional, I believe in principles over rigidity. Like I ideally would define the non-negotiables around governance, ethics, compliance, financial reporting. But around that, build an ecosystem where the businesses or the operations team can do enough innovation so that they can have scale, they can test and essentially scale very quickly. So as a CFO or a finance leader, the key actually is to balance between being the guardian of trust and somebody who's a stakeholder in enabling fast-paced growth.
Okay, great. Because while going through each and everything which you just mentioned and the different companies which you have worked in, I can actually have various different kind of illustrations which I can discuss upon, and this podcast can go on and on because you have done so wonderful wonders in the practical aspect, and there are so many different things which we can learn. Now, since you mentioned about the governance, you mentioned about the transparency, and you also mentioned the principle, the rigidity principle, that how we can balance it. With this, you have been, when you were at Product Armor, you worked in the pharma rigid packaging sector as well. Okay, which was also one of the most remarkable thing, which is very different from the consumer tech or e-commerce, if I may put it that way. So, how do you bring that kind of transparency or transferable finance leadership skill in that particular diversified industry, which we are not very much aware of?
Got it. Yeah, you're right. I have worked in consumer tech to e-commerce, and from there moving into pharma rigid packaging with Product Armor was a bit of a shift. But in my overall experience, I've realized that, the fundamentals of finance as a function and of leadership are, they remain transferable. Because at the end of the day, all organizations essentially need a strong financial discipline, which comes down to, cash flow management, looking at the margins, being compliant, then strategic capital allocation, like, where do you invest for growth and where do you try to optimize decision support to the stakeholders, which comes with robust data reporting or inputs, which facilitate the leaders to make smart choices. So these fundamentals remain industry agnostic. In my case, rather, having the experience to go across sectors has kind of helped me bring fresh perspective, which could apply from one sector to another rather in a creative way. So I think that's how it has actually been helpful because the fundamentals of the function are fairly remain industry agnostic. Yeah.
I think, when you're putting this across, that different sectors are giving you a fresh perspective. I'll totally agree with that because when you go to a different zone, maybe you're not changing what you are actually doing. You're dealing with the finances, but every different sectors is giving you a new perspective and it is actually adding on to what you're doing. So yes, of course. Thank you so much for these financial discussions and the insights which you have given. Now, Ruchi, I want to take you to a different segment. And I actually want to let know our viewers that there are different other things as well apart from finances and law to which we connected, and that is with our spiritual growth and the inner balance. And of course, we also connected, which I can take today on record, with respect to dance. Okay, that is
Yeah.
also one of the most important aspect to which we connected to.
Yeah.
Now, I know that when a person has been involved so much, engrossed in so much different activities, sometimes we need that inner peace. And there's always a question coming across every time now and then, that how you are able to do so many different things. What is your time management? Okay, and I'm pretty much sure that these kind of questions you might be also facing through. Okay, I'm very happy to know that I'm also going to connect with you on this aspect. So alongside with this, having this finance leadership skill, you have also invested yourself in the spiritual growth. Okay, and when I was looking through your journey, I can as I actually came across that you have actually inspired people. Forget about other, but inspired me as well. And I just wanted to ask you that how this spiritual growth helped you in your decision making, and how can even these help us as viewers today or listeners today?
I mean, that's a great question again, because I fundamentally believe in the times that we are living in, which is like, so high pressure, volatile, and a lot of, work time consumes us a lot. Spirituality is like the need of the hour. It's just the way of
Exactly.
functioning. It's in my mind, it's no longer a choice. It's like a, compulsion. In my case, that definitely, so when you're dealing with, let's say, high pressure environments, and you need to make, quick decisions which involve, let's say, high stakes, it definitely helps me to deal with that, pressure, ambiguity. It helps you look at things, of step back, look at things with clarity rather than urgency. You get time to reflect rather than react. So definitely, when you're more centered, uh, things don't affect you as much, and you're able to look at it from a one hand distance and address them better. And I believe when you are doing some of these spiritual practice, it could be anything, it could be meditation, it could be reading a literature that helps. It definitely gives you a lot of, clarity of thoughts, calmness, being centered, and make decisions which are, I believe, more impactful and a lot more humane. So, yeah.
Okay, that's great. You just mentioned something about, the high pressure corporate roles. Okay. So can you just give me any example that how we can, use this mindfulness in such high corporate roles, and how can we integrate it in our daily life that, enhances our productivity and decreases our pressure level as well?
So there could be a lot of micro practices, each one to their own, because everybody's temperament, how they take things, especially things like corporate politics, really,
Exactly.
differ.
Differ.
So, I mean, yeah, taking 2, 3 deep breath before walking into a meeting, few minutes of reflecting before taking a final decision or responding to a situation itself can go a long way. If you're aware about what your mind and body state is for that day, you would approach a lot of situations slightly calmly rather than just being reactive. So, in my case, starting my day with, some meditations which already get me into a zone of calmness so that external chaos doesn't hit right through, goes a long way. So, I mean, yeah, mostly what works for me is meditation and always being in the zone of the literature that really helps you being aligned and calm and approach all of the day's situation from a bit of a, distance rather than getting engrossed into them or being affected by them. So that has gone a long way. And I think today corporate politics is definitely something which, if people take a little bit of a conscious approach, will hurt them a little less and help them navigate better and also maybe build better relations at work. So, yeah.
I think whatever you're talking is something which every one of us faces day to day on a daily basis. Only thing is that how we are perceiving it and how we are reacting to it.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
with some set of spiritual
no,
practices helps you, not get affected by it. And
true, true.
yeah, have a great time dealing with it.
So, before we started with this podcast, I just mentioned that when I do these kind of session, this is for my interest because whenever I'm interacting with someone, I feel that I am learning a lot. Okay, this conversation which we are having today with you is actually I can say a very wide zone conversation because I can say that I'm learning a lot. These things are something which we often hear that you need to do some kind of practices that calms you in the work, and you are actually doing it and you are actually proving that yes, of course, this is going to reduce those high pressure corporate roles and can give you that kind of calmness, can give you thoughtfulness. So thank you so much for putting it across in this way. I'll definitely feel, I don't know about others, but I'm definitely going to start something from today onwards.
That's great.
um Ruchi, moving ahead with this session, intellectual, that intellectuality has always been one of my biggest attraction. Okay, and with you, I want to say that I can see that kind of leadership skill which prevails in you. So as a women CFO, and you're leading that finance industry with some of the biggest big shot companies where you have worked in, what do you feel that what is the unique strength which you believe that every woman should persist if they want to do some kind of excellence in these kind of leadership roles?
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, while technical skills across all genders are same, I do strongly believe that women do have an edge when it comes to, let's say, human skills of having a better emotional intelligence,
Hmm.
empathy, collaborative approach, resilience, adaptability. So I think for women to be leaders and to survive and thrive in corporate, only thing they need to is just believe in themselves. Don't get affected by external noise, which is where again a bit of a spiritual practice helps.
Spiritual
That you
practices.
don't have to buy into other people's point of view. You just have to continue to believe in yourself, your own goals, and be out there and pursue them, because when it comes to human skills, I do believe women have superiority or an edge there to contribute in a lot of holistic sense to an organization, uh, to the people who are a part of the team. Yeah, because they just don't contribute to then a profitable organization, but also a more sustainable and people-centric culture. So definitely, I think that's what all the women leaders need to follow.
Great, great. So, now see, whenever I take up any sessions or whenever I even interact with my students, I always say, let's turn the table around and see, this is my perspective. What should the others follow? Okay. So, in your experience, what do you think can change the mindset of the working culture or the working environment? Like, of course, I know that I don't have to get affected with this. I know what are the measures which I need to follow, but is there anything which you feel that even the work culture should adapt or adopt, okay, in a very signified form so that it can even help a particular woman or any person for that matter to rise into the top of the leadership positions, especially in Indian scenario?
I mean, definitely in India, I think for women to rise in leadership, we need both, like, mindset shift as well as, workplace culture. Uh, Organizations need to move beyond this diversity just being a matrix, and like in this spirit and form, acknowledge, the strengths that women bring to the table, and make it a part of the culture in true sense. As far as women themselves are concerned, they need to feel encouraged to, pursue their ambition without guilt. It both ways, right? It's both ways,
Mm.
right? Like
Both
women need to
ways.
first, stand up for their own goals, their own purpose, uh, without any guilt and fear. So essentially, we need, inclusive structures both from organization and level, and also for society to normalize women in leadership roles, not being like exception, but more like a
Exceptionals.
norm. Yeah, yeah.
No, I think I totally agree with two of the things which you have stated. One is with respect to the guilt, because I feel that way. Okay, many a times I have this guilt trips during my professional life and professional career that, okay, I was supposed to do this and this is something which is lost in the trap. So that is the reason I said that, it works both ways. When we are talking about leadership, there has to be a person who should be very strong, determined that, of course, I have to do something. And at the same point of time, that person even needs that kind of sustained environment to take things forward. So thank you so much. And of course, that fear factor has to be reduced. That is one of the most important thing. Okay, Ruchi, moving ahead to the last segment of our podcast today, you have been a rare combination of deep corporate finance expertise and also, I would say, a principle-based leadership philosophy as well. Okay, so that is a very rare combination I've been talking about. So, according to you, what could be the top three lessons you would like to share with the young people who are coming in these finance profession or finance industries, who can actually help them to lead their life or even to aspire to become or get a leadership role?
Okay, that's a wonderful question. So yeah, I think top three would be number one would be to master the fundamentals. Like
Okay.
howsoever senior you may become, always believe in that grounding of finance, maybe accounting, compliance, analysis, because that would always give you the credibility to lead.
Okay.
Second one would be to see beyond numbers. Finance is not just about reporting, it's about enabling business decisions. So, the moment you master the art of translating data into strategy, is where real value add happens. And third, I would say, would be to lead with principles. Integrity, empathy, how you balance, the soft skills. They can become leadership
Hmm.
multipliers. Because in a high pressure environment, I think at the end of the day, uh, what you deliver uh, matters, but what matters
Matters.
more is how you deliver it. So I think these would be my top three. Yeah.
Great, great. I think, these things are something which we keep on hearing now and then. But when it comes to the execution and the implementation part, is something where we get, lost deep down. So, Ruchi, now today, when, like I mentioned, that, intellectual capacity is something which attracts me the most. So, if I'll say that finally today, when you see your success, okay, I know your answer will be that there are a lot more ladders to climb about, because as far as I know, you are also, following that kind of concept where you are also growth driven. Every day is a new learning phase for you. But still, if you see from my perspective, from my point of view, then whatever you have achieved so far today, which is actually a lot, whether you want to say it that it is because in terms of numbers, or whether it is a kind of impact, whether it's balance, or there is anything else which we cannot see from our naked eye and it's coming behind your back.
Okay, so success today is much broader than numbers, just numbers. While numbers do reflect the progress and discipline, they are definitely not the whole story. For me, true success would be balancing impact, growth, and harmony.
Great.
Impact is something that I, contribute to the organization or to the people that I'm working with. Growth would not be just professional, but also my personal, growth when I learn through the challenges that I face, throughout the day in my various,
Hmm.
roles that I play at work. And harmony would be the ability to maintain inner balance, right?
Wow.
Because work to me should enhance my life. It should not totally consume it. So, in simple words, success would be when, I contribute meaningfully, I also grow, and I still stay, centered. That's when the numbers and, the entire journey would be worthwhile. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ruchi. And I'm being very honest with you in this podcast. The way you mentioned that it should enhance your life and not consume it, I am still learning the hard way of it. So I'm being very honest, and thank you so much for putting it across this way, because there are so many different things which I'm going to, take from here, from this podcast, and I am going to definitely implement it in my life. And the way you have put across the different finances, that it's not only about the numbers, there are a lot way more to it, has actually given a very good perspective about how we can take things forward. So thank you so much, Ruchi, for joining this Uplift podcast series. Your journey, your leadership, your vision. It's not only about numbers, like I just mentioned, it's more about impact and harmony. And the best part of it is the combination which I've got in you, the spirituality as well as the finance is something, a rare combination which we can follow and we can find. So thank you so much for sharing your insights. And for the viewers, I would definitely say that you should watch this particular episode with Ruchi to know that how we can actually balance our life, not by consuming, getting ourselves consumed, but by a way of enhancement. So thank you so much, Ruchi, for taking this particular time out from your busy
Thank you so
schedule.
much, Dr. Shivangi. The pleasure has been mine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ruchi.